welcome to the Circle Church.
Good morning, everyone.
Very nice to see you. Kirsten, so good to see you.
Very good to see you.
Well, we're happy to have you with us, celebrating today the Sabbath. I invite you to pray with me as we begin. God, we are so thankful that we have the Sabbath, that we can come and we can celebrate and we can worship you as a community. We ask for your blessing today. Give us good communion as we fellowship together and praise you in song and worship and in the message. We pray that you will bless Fred as he's our speaker this morning. Speak through him, give him the words that will reach each one of us who are here today. We pray this in your name. Amen. Worthy of every song.
very little sleep, and a lot of stuff going on at work, plus school, and all those things, trying to balance. And the other night, Chelsea was taking Nimbus, our puppy, out to go poop. And, I was sitting in the car. It was like almost 10 o'clock, I think, and I got off work at 9, so it had been an hour or something like that. I don't know how long I sat in the parking lot, but I was in the parking lot for a while, and when I came out, Chelsea was like, "Man, you were out there for a long time. What were you doing?" And you ever get those moments like you're driving home after a long day, you park the car, all you need to do is go inside and you just kind of sit there. You know what I'm talking about? It's like you just sit there, and you're just like, just a little bit of quiet, you know. And that, like, it was like one of those moments. It's like this is the quietest it's been all week, and I just sat there for a while. And I spoke with God for quite a bit. And "Sweet Hour of Prayer" is one of those hymns that always, it's such a powerful hymn. When you read the lyrics, the hymn says, like, there's these moments of grief, and I found relief in my time of prayer. And then the last stanza, it's that moment when Jesus comes back and we're saying goodbye to that time. It's such an awesome image of like such a time that brought so much peace, we won't need it anymore.
Happy Sabbath, church. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
All right. Good to see everybody again this morning. There's so much going on in our world today. So many things to worry about. The focus of our conversation this morning is going to be stepping out in faith. The goal for us is how can we step out in faith? So earlier this week, on Monday actually, April 8th, it was reported that 3 American service members were killed after a bomb exploded near Bagram Air Force Base in Afghanistan. So we get these reports from time to time. I remember when the war first began, after September 11th, and the troops were deployed. For those who don't know, I just left the military just before the war began. I remember seeing some of my past platoon members deploying actually in Battle Creek, Michigan, deploying to war. And I kind of felt a sense of guilt, like why was I not part of that group? And my wife Melinda was like, Fred, I'm happy you're not part of that. But there's a sense of guilt that you feel because you've been with these folks for a while and now it's time to go to something and you're not with them. So when the war first began, I remember every time you see somebody a casualty of war, it was a very painful experience. You feel this guilt, this gut-wrenching fear. I think about their families, like, oh man, the last time they saw them, they said bye to them and they left and they're not seeing them again until Christ comes back again. But after a while, it becomes harder and harder to distinguish between one casualty report and the other. When there's a lot of them coming through, it becomes a little bit more the norm. 15 years ago, though, on Friday, April 3rd, 2004, the news of a soldier killed in action in Afghanistan was reported. Unlike every other casualty report, there was something unique about this particular one. This soldier's name was Pat Tillman. I think some of you may have heard of him. So Pat Tillman was an extraordinary case because Pat Tillman had everything a young man could dream about. He was drafted by the NFL, by the Arizona Cardinals in 1998. He won the strong safety position where he broke the franchise record for tackles in 2000. He was at the top of his game. He had a $3.6 million contract. And the Super Bowl, St. Louis Rams were after him for the next season with about three times the amount of money. Pat Tillman was living the American dream. But after September 11th, after the terrorist attacks, a higher cause gripped him. In May 2002, at the age of 25, he walked away from the NFL, trading his multi-million-dollar contract for $18,000 a year from Uncle Sam as an Army Ranger. He didn't make a big deal about this. He actually shunned the press. He told his friends he wanted to give something back to his country. 2 years later, Pat Tillman was killed in Afghanistan. You see, Pat Tillman felt a calling to something bigger than himself. Imagine the courage it takes to leave all that comfort and security and step into something so unknown, so dangerous, so seemingly unrewarding. Pat Tillman is an American hero not because he died in Afghanistan, not because of something heroic he did. He is an American hero because despite his fears, despite the uncertainty, he steps out in faith. The last time I spoke here, I talked about the great and mighty warrior, Naaman. You see, Naaman had to humble himself in order to be touched by God and to get healing. Today, though, my message is about another young man, a lowly, unaccomplished farmer who had to step into the spotlight in order to fulfill God's purpose for him. Today's conversation is about a young man who, like Pat Tillman, also stepped out in faith for his country. It is important to note, though, that Pat Tillman, although he sacrificed a lot, if you saw him, he did look the part. He looked like an Army Ranger even before he stepped a day afoot at a boot camp. He was a pretty impressive guy, a big guy, imposing physically. However, unlike Tillman, the young man we will talk about today did not look the part. At first glance, he was in no way impressive. Not at all. However, so significant is the mark that this very ordinary man made in his time that he is listed in Hebrews 11 alongside the movers and shakers of the Old Testament. As we read his story today, we're going to get a little bit of a primer about God's love for us and a lesson in trusting God. Let us pray. Our Father in heaven, we thank you. We thank you for life. We thank you for the privilege that we have to be here today. We thank you for those who are here and for those who cannot make it today. We thank you, most of all, that your one and only Son came to this earth and died for our sins. May our fellowship today be a blessing to us and to those around us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So we're going to begin by reading from the book of Judges, right? So Judges chapter 6, verses 1 to 10. Judges chapter 6, verses 1 to 10. Judges 6, 1 to 10. So it says, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord, and for 7 years he gave them into the hands of the Midianites. Because the power of Midian was so oppressive, the Israelites prepared shelters for themselves in mountain clefts, caves, and strongholds. Whenever the Israelites planted their crops, the Midianites, Amalekites, and other eastern peoples invaded the country. They camped on the land and ruined the crops all the way to Gaza and did not spare a living thing for Israel, neither sheep, nor cattle, nor donkeys. They came up with their livestock and their tents like swarms of locusts. It was impossible to count them or their camels. They invaded the land to ravage it. Midian so impoverished the Israelites that they cried out to the Lord for help. When the Israelites cried out to the Lord because of Midian, he sent them a prophet who said, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel says. I brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. I rescued you from the land of Egyptians, and I delivered you from the hand of all your oppressors. I drove them out before you and gave you their land. I said to you, I am the Lord your God. Do not worship the gods of the Amorites, in whose land you live. But you have not listened to me." The first lesson we learn here is that God sometimes uses times of trouble to get our attention. As we begin reading, we find that the nation of Israel is coming off a time of relative ease. The bills are paid, the kids are behaving, business is good. And as it tends to happen for all of us, during those times, Israel forgot God. They became self-sufficient. They turned away from God and started worshiping false idols. So the Lord shook things up by rousing an enemy against them to show them how hard life can be without Him. Verse 1 says the Israelites did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, so the Lord handed them over to Midian for 7 years. For those who don't know who Midianites are, it's kind of interesting. A lot of what you see in the Bible are a lot of family squabbles. Midian was actually the son of Keturah. Does anybody remember who Keturah was? Anybody? Who was Keturah?
She was the second wife
Of Abraham. Yes. So after Sarah died, most people don't know this, but Abraham remarried. This is not Ishmael's mother here. We're talking about a different woman. So after Sarah died, he remarried and had multiple sons after that. So Midian was one of his children. These are the people we're talking about here who are coming to Israel and ravaging them like locusts. They're cousins. Okay? So keep that in mind. A lot of the Bible wars and troubles and everything are just family squabbles. Brothers and sisters, cousins and sisters fighting each other. Yeah? So, the Midianite army was very powerful and oppressed the Israelites mercilessly every year around harvest time. Verse 5 tells us that they would come in like locusts, ravaging the land. What they couldn't carry with them, they destroyed. Things were so bad for the Israelites that they actually said to live in caves, strongholds, fearing for their lives. This went on for 7 years. Finally, the Israelites cried out to the Lord for help. The question is, why did it take them 7 years? Like most of us, we sometimes wait till the problem is unbearable before we seek help. Israel became poverty-stricken because of Midian, and they cried out to God. How many times have we been in trouble and we never stop to ask what God's plan is for us? Instead, we hold out thinking that we can handle it on our own. We have to learn a lesson from Gideon and from this story. Every experience in life is a test, and God can use every trial in the lives of his people to draw them closer to himself. This is something we've talked about in our Bible study in the afternoon in James. God uses our trials and tribulations to bring us closer to himself. When tough times come our way, instead of looking at them as God is punishing us, let us try to see them as a gift of grace. Try to see them as an opportunity to draw closer to God. You see, in Proverbs 3:11-12, it says, "Do not despise the Lord's instruction, my son, and do not loathe his discipline. For the Lord disciplines the one he loves, just as a father the son he delights in." God loves us too much to let us keep living the way we are. He longs to be at the center of our lives. He has designs in our troubles, and they are always for our good. C.S. Lewis once said, "God whispers to us in our pleasures. He speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world." In order to get Israel's attention, God let them be overwhelmed by the Midianites. And when they cried out to him, he first of all sends a prophet. If you read that, you see what happened there. He doesn't just send a judge. Before this point in time, there were several problems, and there were different judges that came and helped Israel and relieve them from their pain. But the first thing that God does here is he sends a prophet instead of sending them a judge to help them immediately. God was trying to point Israel to the root of the problem. Think about this concept of what just happened. We are in pain. We are oppressed by the Midianites. Help us. And then God sends them a sermon. Imagine yourself on the road, trapped. Somehow, your car has broken down and you call AAA. The expectation would be that they would send to you a tow truck. Instead, they send you a pamphlet on safe driving. That is what's happening here, right? I'm in trouble. I need a tow truck. But you're, well, Fred, you probably want to learn how to drive better. So what God is trying to do here is that he's trying to point them to the source of their problem. Israel's problem was not the Midianites. Israel's problem was Israel. However, along the way, God also sent them something else. So he sent them the prophet, but he also included relief. God sometimes uses tough times to get our attention. Let us keep reading. So in verse 11-12, it says, "The angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oak in Ophrah, that belonged to Joash the Abiezrite, where his son Gideon was threshing wheat in a winepress to keep it from the Midianites. When the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." This is the first time we meet Gideon in verse 11, where he is in a winepress threshing wheat. So for those of you who don't normally thresh wheat for fun, like I do, the way you do that is that you have a basket of wheat and you're in an open field, and there should usually be wind blowing. So you throw up the wheat in the air and the wind blows away the chaff. That's how you do it. So he, Gideon, was threshing wheat in a winepress. And for those of you who don't typically work in a winepress like I do, a winepress is a depression in the ground, usually a divot of some sort. And it's like a hole in the ground. And there usually is no wind in the winepress. So threshing wheat in a winepress is a terrible idea. But we know why he's here. Because Gideon was afraid, he was scared. He was hiding from the Midianites. That's why he was hiding here, threshing wheat, not in the open, but in a winepress, in a hole. This was a young man who was full of fear. A young man hiding. Yet, in verse 12, when the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." I can imagine Gideon looking around like, mighty warrior. You talking to me? Like he's like, who are you talking about? This is what God calls him, mighty warrior. This is a man who's hiding in fear. And God is saying, mighty warrior. Was God being sarcastic? I don't think so. The angel of the Lord saw in Gideon something that Gideon did not see in himself. He saw what Gideon was about to become. Gideon was not called because he was courageous. He became courageous because he was called. God is not describing him as he is describing him as he is going to make him. God does not call the brave, he makes brave the called. God is not calling you and I because we are prepared. He prepares us because he calls us. When God comes to us, he does not focus on what we are, on what we cannot do. He focuses on what he intends to make of us. God knows who you are, even if you don't. And he will work to help you see your true identity. God sees us not only as we are, but also as we could be. Keep that in mind. So in verse 13 onwards, he says, this is when the angel has now come to him and called him a mighty warrior. Gideon doesn't respond to that. He says, "Pardon me, my Lord," very politely. He replied, "But if the Lord is with us, why has all of this happened to us? Where are all his wonders that our ancestors told us about when they said, 'Did not the Lord bring us up out of Egypt?' But now the Lord has abandoned us and given us into the hand of Midian." The Lord turned to him and said, "Go in strength you have and save the strength you have, and save Israel out of Midian's hand. Am I not sending you?" Again, "Pardon me, my Lord," Gideon replied. "But how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my family." The Lord answered, "I will be with you, and you will strike down all the Midianites, leaving none alive." Gideon replied, "If now I have found favor in your eyes, give me a sign that this is truly you that's talking to me. Please do not go away until I come back and bring my offering and set it before you." And the Lord said, "I will wait until your return." So Gideon went inside, prepared a young goat, and from an ephah of flour he made bread without yeast putting the meat in a basket and his broth in a pot. He brought them out and offered them to him on the oak. The angel of God said to him, "Take the meat and the unleavened bread, place them on this rock and pour out the broth." And Gideon did so. Then the angel of the Lord touched the meat and the unleavened bread with the tip of the staff that was in his hand. Fire flared from the rock, consuming the meat and the bread, and the angel of the Lord disappeared. When Gideon realized that it was the angel of the Lord, he exclaimed, "Alas, sovereign Lord, I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face." But the Lord said to him, "Peace, do not be afraid. You are not going to die." So Gideon built an altar to the Lord there and called it, "The Lord is Peace." To this day, it stands in Ophrah of the Israelites. The interesting about this part we just read is the lesson that God intends to use each and every one of us to make a difference in our world. You see, Gideon's response here at the beginning when he's asking him, "Where is the Lord all this time? Where is the Lord that we've heard about from our ancestors, from our forefathers?" It reminds me of a story that I saw once some time ago of a man who was so distraught by all the pain and suffering around him that he broke down, struck his face on the floor, to the ground, and his head turned up to heaven, yelled at God, and he said, "Look at this mess. Look at all this pain and suffering in the world. What are you doing about it? Look at all the fear, the killing, the hate. Why don't you do something?" This is what he says to God. This is a question a lot of us ask ourselves. Why is there so much pain? What is God doing about it? And God spoke to this young man, and he said, "I am doing something about it. I sent you." This is something we always want to keep in mind, because God is in control all the time. But we are his instruments here in this world. When we're looking around asking, "God, why are you not doing something?" His response to us, "I already sent you." That's what he's telling Gideon here. "I already sent you. I am with you." Gideon doesn't understand the math here. So he notes just how unimpressive his resume is. He is the weakest link in his clan, the youngest in his family. He doesn't have any authority to call out the cavalry from his own tribe, let alone from others. God's response to him was, "I will be with you, and you will strike down all the Midianites, leaving none alive." Remember these locusts. God is saying to this guy, a farmer, not a warrior, "You will strike down these armies." God intends to use every single one of us to make a difference in our world. So in verse 25, it continues. That same night, the Lord said to him, "Take the second bull from your father's herd, and the one 7 years old. Tear down your father's altar to Baal and cut down the Asherah pole beside it. Then build a proper kind of altar to the Lord your God on the top of this height. Using the wood of the Asherah pole that you cut down, offer the second bull as a burnt offering." So Gideon took 10 of his servants and did as the Lord told him. But because he was afraid, remember Gideon again, he's afraid of his family and the townspeople, he did this at night rather than in the daytime. In the morning, when the people of the town got up, there was Baal's altar demolished with a Asherah pole beside it, cut down, and the second bull had been sacrificed on the newly built altar. They asked each other, "Who did this?" When they carefully investigated, they were told, "Gideon, son of Joash, did it." The people of the town demanded of Joash, "Bring out your son. He must die because he has broken down Baal's altar and cut down the Asherah pole beside it." But Joash replied to the hostile crowd around him, "Are you going to plead Baal's cause? Are you trying to save him? Whoever fights for him shall be put to death by morning. If Baal really is a god, he can defend himself when someone breaks down his altar. So, because Gideon broke down Baal's altar, they gave him the name Jerubbaal that day, saying, let Baal contend with him. What was the point of this? He was being called to help deliver Israel from the Midianites. But God wanted him, first of all, to prove his obedience by destroying the idol worship of his family. Before God can use us, he must be magnified in our own lives. That is the story here. In your own home, in your own life. Before we go out there trying to lead others to God, we, every single one of us, should ask ourselves, are there idols in our lives that need to be knocked down? What is that special sin that we are holding on to? The one sin that we don't want to let go, the one that feels good, the Asherah pole, the Baal, the altar, that we don't want to let go of. God is asking us, before we go out there to lead others to him, to let go of it. Will it be difficult? Of course it will be difficult. That is why he gave Gideon the commission that I will be with you. Just like he promised Gideon, he has promised us that he will be with us every step of the way. Reformation begins at home. Verse 33. Now all the Midianites, Amalekites, and other eastern peoples joined forces and crossed over the Jordan and camped in the valley of Jezreel. If this was a movie, I can almost see the scenes playing out. There'll be some ominous music playing. You see all the Amalekites, the bad guys, camping, arising, getting together for war to go ravage Israel again. Then, the Spirit of the Lord came on Gideon, and he blew a trumpet, summoning the Abiezrites to follow him. The bad guys are coming together. The good guys are coming together. He sent messages throughout Manasseh, calling them to arms, and also into Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali, so that they too went up to meet them. I remember as a kid watching Braveheart. Has anybody seen that movie?
That's what I just said.
That's what he said? Oh yeah, that's what it feels like right now. So William Wallace is going around rallying the troops. We gotta go fight those English people. What? Oh, thank you. Sorry. That's exactly what happened here. That's what's happening here, right? So he's running his troops, the bad guys are amassing, and then Gideon says to God, if you will save Israel by my hands, as you have promised, look, I will place a wool fleece on the threshing floor. Remember, this is like an anticlimactic here. There's good music playing, everybody's getting ready. Bad guys are amassing. Good guys are getting together. Gideon, who's supposed to be psyched up, the leader, he really isn't like William Wallace. He's going back to God and saying, so, you know, this thing we talked about, he's having doubts again. Let me just verify, let me make sure I know what exactly is supposed to happen here. If you really want me to do this, I am going to do an experiment with you, God. Please, just bear with me. So he says, I will place a wool fleece on the threshing floor. Again, his threshing floor where he hides in the wine press. If there is dew only on the fleece and all the ground is dry, then I will know that you will save Israel by my hand, as you said. And that is what happened. Gideon rose early the next day. He squeezed the fleece and wrung out the dew, a bowl full of water. Then Gideon said to God, so do not be angry with me, please. Let me make just one more request. Allow me one more test with the fleece. But this time, make the fleece dry and let the ground be covered with dew. That night, God did so. Only the fleece was dry, and all the ground was covered with dew. The lesson here, God is patient, always patient with us, even in our doubt. I know this firsthand. Shauna knows me complaining about attendance at this church. My doubt every single week. God is patient with me even in my unforgivable doubt. This is me. I am Gideon. Gideon comes up with this brilliant idea in his mind at first. So I'm thinking that this guy may not be so smart, but that's okay. We'll go with that. And he comes up with he says, look at the experiment. Even when I first read this when I was a young kid, I was like, something wrong with this story. You're going to put fleece out there and see if it's going to be wet and everything else dry. You see, when it happened, and the fleece was wet and the ground was dry, Gideon remembered his second grade science class. He's like, you know, come to think of it, wool absorbs moisture. That's what he remembered from science class. He had learned that wool is a complex material composed of cuticle and epicuticle cells, surrounded by a cell of membrane complex. Wool fibers absorb moisture from air, and once immersed in water, they take up considerable amounts of liquid. This was not a good test. Not a good test at all. It's kind of funny because 2 days ago we had a program on campus in Notre Dame, and Bill Nye, the science guy, was there. So I took Abby with me to go see him. And so it was talking about all the experiments that he does on TV and all these wonderful things. And he says, we don't call them experiments, we call them demonstrations. Why? Because they're demonstrations because we already know what's going to happen before we do it on TV. An experiment is one where I don't know what's going to happen, right? So this is an experience here where Gideon should have known that wool will absorb moisture, right? We say, okay, fine. Let's go against science. Now I'm going to do the reverse. I'm going to ask you to do the reverse, God. Make it so that everything around the wool fleece is going to be wet while the fleece itself stays dry. That is an ultimate test of your power. And guess what happened? Exactly that. See, I love how tender and patient God is with us and with Gideon here. Gideon is making a deal with God. He wants a confirming sign, and the Bible says the next morning God gave it to him. The fleece was wet and the ground was dry. Even when he reverses the test in verse 39, God graciously confirmed his power to Gideon. God was developing this man into a fully convinced servant, matching each doubt with kind reassurance. As you and I seek his face, God will show us the same patience as well, allaying our fears as we grow into the man or woman he wants us to be. God is always patient with us in our doubt. So this is Gideon's experience, going through this process of being called a mighty warrior when he was not. It didn't seem that way at first. Even in the assurance that God gave him several times, he still had a lot of doubt. He struggled with it. But God was patient with him. In chapter 7, verses 1 to 8, let us look at what happens. So after the assurance, and I want to tell you this was not the last one. Gideon comes up with more tests later as well. So I'll just let you know. So early in the morning, Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, and all his men camped at the spring of Harod. The camp of Midian was north of them in the valley near the hill of Moreh. The Lord said to Gideon, "You have too many men. I cannot deliver Midian into their hands, or Israel will boast against me. My own strength has saved me. Now announce to the army, Anyone who trembles with fear may turn back and leave Mount Gilead. So 22,000 men left, while 10,000 remained. You have too many men. So Gideon went out, did all this stuff, all the music was playing, the trumpets were blowing, and 32,000 people came out. And God says, you have too many people, Gideon. Tell anybody who was scared to go home. They're going to war. I would hope that everybody should be scared at some level. So 22,000, more than half of them, went home. 10,000 remained of the 32,000. But the Lord said to Gideon, there are still too many men. Take them down to the water, and I will thin them out for you there. If I say this one shall go with you, he shall go with you. But if I say this one shall not go with you, he shall not go with you. So Gideon took the men down to the water. There the Lord told him, separate those who lap the water with their tongues as a dog laps from those who kneel down to drink. 300 of them drank from cupped hands, lapping like dogs. All the rest got down on their knees to drink. The Lord said to Gideon, with the 300 men that lapped, I will save you and give the Midianites into your hands. Let all the others go home. So Gideon sent the rest of the Israelites home, but kept the 300 who took over the provisions and trumpets of the others. God often uses the smallest or weakest things for the greatest good. That is a lesson here. You see, Gideon is now ready. He's gone through these different tests. 32,000 people came out. This is the same guy who says, I'm the least in my family. My family is the least among all the clans. Who's going to listen to me? And then come to find that people actually listened to him and came out. 32,000, he must be feeling pretty good. If you read later on, you're going to find out that the Midianite army was 135,000 people. 135,000 people. But God proceeds to give Gideon his own test now. I want you to get rid of a lot of the people that came with you. If you're scared, go home. 22,000. Just like that. 10,000 left. Gideon was like shocked and worried, like, whoa. I don't think I had enough people in the first place. Now you're taking away more people. So in verse 4, a second test was even given. He tells him to take them down to the water to drink. What does that have to do with fighting? Weed out any men who stick their face down into the water to drink, and keep those who ladle the water to their mouths with their hands. $9,700 people were out. 300 men left. Can you imagine how Gideon must have felt? 135,000 against 300. 450 to 1. God wants Gideon's army to face the Midianite horde with 300 men who know how to drink water politely. Seriously? What is this? God created an impossible situation of human weakness on purpose to exalt his own strength. This is his specialty. Accomplishing God's purposes is not determined by the bottom line. It's not determined by our finance sheet or the size of our congregation. It is not determined by the efficiency of our plans. We can throw the plans we want in place. Yes, those are important things. Chelsea, I'm picking on you as our treasurer. I believe we need to be in the black. I agree. I agree we need more people here to help us accomplish God's work. I believe we need to put plans in place to accomplish God's work. But that is not the recipe for success by itself. God is looking to glorify himself on earth through people who are fully dependent on him. People who believe he is with them and are ready to charge the hill in the name of the Lord. God doesn't need a majority vote from us on this. He doesn't need us at all. But he invites every single one of us to join him in doing his will, in doing his will on this earth to accomplish his mission, his purpose for us. It happened in Israel in one of the strangest battle strategies in military history. 300 men defeated. We didn't even read this part. They didn't even go to war if you keep reading this stuff. They went to war with trumpets, with torches, and jars. Again, it's weird. They're going to war with trumpets, with torches, and jars. What? God sent confusion into the immediate army when the Israelites came, and they began attacking each other. When it was over, 120,000 Midianites were dead. They killed each other. The Israelites didn't have to do anything for 120,000 people. 15,000 ran away. And then they chased those guys to attack them. God had answered their prayers, Israel's prayers, through a common man, a farmer, not a warrior, not like Naaman. This was a scared young man who had no battle experience. God used him, a man who had a lot of doubt, a man who was not impressive, imposing, who didn't look the part. He used him because he believed. Even in his doubt, he believed. The question for you and I today is, will I believe? Will I step out in faith, knowing that God will always be with us? Amen.
Just to make sure Fred doesn't feel like the only Gideon, I also feel like a Gideon in my walk. But I just want to thank him for that today. I think sometimes we forget, even in the song that Chelsea and Alex sung today, I wrote it down too, because I think sometimes that we forget that we're free, and that we have a place in heaven, and that God is always with us, like Fred told us today. Before we go into prayer, I just want to remind everybody that we are going to have an agape feast next week. Everybody's welcome to come. It'll be a really nice dinner. We can all sit down and fellowship, and then I think you're going to run the rest of it. Alex is going to run the rest of it. And then on the 8th, we're going to do a blood drive. We'd like to have people come out for that if they want to, and maybe pass out some flyers. Free lunch to anybody that comes out. So I think Kevin has on our Facebook a site where you can go on and pick a time. So if you do want to donate, you can come and log in, but you can pick a time too. That way, if you've got things to do, you can get that done and then pick the time that you want. But it'll run from 12 to 3, I think, is when you can start signing up for the times. But they'll stay as long as they need to. So if we end up having a really good share of people, then they'll stay as long as they want. Last year, our first tryout, we did save 51 lives. So hopefully we can get better than that this year. That'd be awesome. So does anybody have any prayers today? Prayers or praise either? Did they like to throw out there? Besides Alex and Chelsea's word of the week?
Break school.
Okay. Anybody else? The part of this church. I learn so much each time that I come here. I just want you to be with us as we go forward, and just be with us as we go out to the community. I want you to be with all of the students that are in school, the struggles that they go through, and all the people that are out looking for jobs as they get out of school, or even while they're in school. Be with them as they start that new chapter of their lives. Bless you for being with Chrissy and Olivia on their trip to Lebanon, and making them come back safe and doing the deeds that they did there. Be with Barry's friend Larissa. As a person with animals, I know what it's like to lose, someone that's close to you that you've had your whole life, an animal. It's just like a family member. So be with her as she deals with the stresses of her job and the loss of her family friend.